Now, please welcome co-founder and Chief Executive Officer, Vacasa, Eric Breon, in discussion with Skift travel tech editor, Sean O'Neill.
So our next speaker is a star, just like the other speakers we've had on stage, but he's the odd person out in one way, and that is he represents a small startup instead of being a CEO of a large company. And he's here because the vacation rental industry is hot, but reporters like me tend to talk about the Airbnbs, the Booking.coms, the HomeAways, and the sector's much more than that. There's a whole set of businesses that are grabbing opportunity that have popped up. And one of the most promising of these is Eric's company, Vacasa. So if you have questions for Eric, you can use your mobile app. And if there's some questions that you'd like to have us talk about at the end, you can upvote them via the app and via Slido. So thank you for coming here today. Appreciate it, Eric.
Glad to be here. And I would say that even though he calls us small, on a head count, we're about 1,600, so I think we have a few you beat there. So we just got to get investors to realize that head count is really what matters and what valuation should be driven on, so soon.
So 1,600 employees. So are you paying them like $3 an hour?
Yeah, $2.50 in some markets. Actually, we pay, something we're pretty proud of is we do pay a $15 minimum wage company-wide throughout the domestic US. We pay our employees well because when you look at our demographic, it's people that own second homes. They want somebody who's able to give great service and take care of that home. It's important to them to be able to work with people they'd enjoy working with.
Absolutely, that seems like a core value. So some people in the audience may not know what Vacasa is. So what is the elevator pitch for us?
Yeah, so first, I know it's hard to imagine in this Airbnb world that there were vacation rentals more than 10 years ago. There have been beach houses for generations. There have been ski condos for decades. It's been around for forever, and that's the market we play in. It's the ski houses, it's the beach houses. And what Vacasa does, we're a full-service management company, that sleepy business where it would be, an owner who does everything from marketing and booking to reservations to housekeeping to maintenance, and 3 or 4 staff members, and they try and do a great job for their owners, and they work for their homeowners. They work incredibly hard, but there's just too much to do between the marketing and taking care of the homes and the like. So that's the space we play in.
Okay, so if I'm a property owner, I hand the keys to you. You handle the housekeeping part, but you also deal with the guests.
Yeah, we do everything. You just let us know when you want to be there for your vacation, and we send you a really big check every month.
Okay, so yesterday, I can't mention rentals without mentioning Airbnb, and Nathan, one of the co-founders, was here talking with Rafat, and the topic of regulation came up. And Airbnb has had a fraught relationship with regulation. So what is Vacasa's relationship?
So we follow them. It's an odd path. I don't know where I went astray early on, but we've chosen to follow all of the local regulations about, is this home actually zoned for vacation rental usage? Fortunately for us, in most of the markets where we do business, vacation rentals are core. They're bread and butter. Like, imagine Truckee without vacation rentals. It's just, it would wither. It would not exist. We do love the urban market. There is a lot of demand for an offering like ours in urban markets, more from the consumer side. People rarely have second homes in urban markets, and if they do, they're too rich to rent them. But there is the demand on the consumer side, so I'd love to see regulatory progress there. But for us, our bread and butter, it doesn't impact it for the most part.
Okay, so when you're looking at the market that way, so a lot of times as a reporter, if you say vacation rentals to me in a pop quiz, I'll think of millennial European couple, they want to book a short-term apartment in like Paris or Barcelona through a site like Airbnb. But you're looking at what kind of property and what kind of customer do you tend to get?
Yeah, this is back to the old people one there. So it's the families, or as I love Mark's dig, young people with friends. It's all about bringing people together into these big houses where people can actually enjoy their time together.
Are those customers looking for the cheapest place, or?
No, I think there is a pretty big segment. So we're full spectrum. So early days when we were happy to get our first double wide, we were very excited about that. Home number 10. But these days we represent a very broad range. We represent modest condos on up through. We have a house in Vail that's worth $17 million. So very, very full spectrum, because that's what people are looking for. Most of the people in the world are not rich, and so we want to serve that constituency, as well as, we do love our customers who like to spend $1,000, $2,000 a night. Once they spend $5,000 a night, we don't like those customers. You're too high maintenance. Not our thing.
So some of the major players in that sector for a long time are Wyndham, there's Marriott. You're in 3 countries, so as you expand internationally, Accor
We're in
Hotels.
15 or so.
15 countries,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So Accor Hotels and some other players. So how can little Vacasa compete against these lodging players that have been around for a while, they're better capitalized?
So on the vacation rental side, we now have about 1% market share. 40 times more growth, and we'll be happy. Yeah, so we're about 1% market share in the U.S. domestically. That's about where Wyndham is. So we're about the same size as them on a revenue basis. They have more units, but we book ours for more. So I think Jeff left now, so I can say that. But yeah, it's a ridiculously fragmented market. It's not really the big players out there that we're competing with. It's all those small local companies. And one of the aspects of our business is, so I feel like I'm a bad guy when I say how we're competing with all these small local businesses, but we're also their retirement plans. So most of our growth has been organic, but we've actually bought over 60 companies, these small mom and pop companies, because it's a win for everyone involved. The seller of the company, they either get to retire or join our team and do what they like doing. The employees of the company get benefits and a career path, and the homeowners make a lot more money. So that's one thing we're pretty excited about.
Okay. I'd like to take a quick poll of the audience. How many people either have an apartment or a home that they sort of rent out, once a year, or have a loved one who rents out properties? So we have
Christina, can you collect their cards?
Got a busy afternoon, Eric. But that's a good amount, but it could be more, and I think a lot of people have anxiety about renting out their property. One of the things we're talking about over these 2 days is the permanent anxiety that permeates a lot of travel. And so is there anything that Vacasa does that sort of makes it a little more manageable risk?
Yeah, so first we do some fixed rent offerings where we'll tell you exactly how much we'll pay you each month for use of your property. That's kind of a niche because people like flexibility around their property. They like to know, hey, I might use it this weekend, I might not. They don't want to negotiate that in advance. But we do take care of, we make them really good money. We can give them a really good estimate from the start of how much they'll make. And we make it simple for them. If you can afford a second home, you don't need that part-time job of trying to figure out a plumber who can show up on a Friday night when your guests show up to a broken hot water heater. Mm-hmm.
So you've raised some funding. Tell the audience about that.
Yeah, so we've raised some funding. The more interesting story is we went 7 years without raising funding. So we were bootstrapped for 7 years, and then 18 months ago we did our first round of investment. It's a huge market opportunity, so we just wanted to make sure we could attack it quick enough.
So it's a Series A of 40 million?
Yeah.
Okay. Why wait so long to do the venture capital?
Well, my first job out of college was at a VC firm, so I knew better. So.
And what changed your mind now?
Just the scale of the opportunity. There's just so much growth. As I mentioned earlier, we're about 1% US market share, not even a basis point internationally. Mm-hmm. And we want to grow into the opportunity that's here. And it would be silly to handicap ourselves by not having sufficient capital.
So there are other players that are also trying to bring tech to, wring the inefficiencies out of the system. You're sort of positioned, if I had like a scattergram, you're sort of like on the higher end of commissions. Property owners are paying a little more than they would elsewhere. So why are you comfortable with that? Yeah,
so first, when we started out, we were better, faster, and cheaper. We'd give people the best results, the best service, but we were also the lowest priced. Most people actually found it a little suspicious. Like, how many of here drive Kias? Not seeing many hands here. When you look at the audience of people who own second homes, they're generally not looking for the cheapest. It's a mismatch with the audience. Yes, there's going to be 10% who are always going to be, hey, who's the cheapest offering out there? That's where I'm going. But we can offer, but what they really care about is how great is the service I'm receiving? Who can I call? And how much will I make in the end? And that is something where we can almost always win, even despite a higher commission rate. We have a take rate that many in this room would be very jealous of. Despite our take rate, we still give more to the homeowners than anyone else can because we grow the top line through yield management, marketing distribution, and the like.
So, there are some irresponsible startups out there that sort of take the venture capital money and go on a merry-go-round through it, and you have 1,600 employees, which seems like a lot. You've sort of grown through acquisition instead of maybe organic customer growth. So
more than half organic.
More than half.
Yeah.
So your statistic right now is about half of your customers are come through organic?
Yeah.
Okay. So what can you give as other statistics to sort of show that we should have confidence that you're here for the long haul?
It's a good question. I'll pass on this one.
Okay. Are there good cash flow, or is it?
Yeah. So we're roughly break even right now. So a lot of it depends on how quickly we expand to new markets. Okay. So if we want to, believe it or not, launching a new market with 2 employees and 1 home is not very profitable. But in the long run, it's a very wise financial decision. So for us, it's all about where do we put the throttle on the new market expansions. Our core businesses are very profitable, and so it's just finding that perfect balance of growth.
It's got to be very hard to choose 15 countries, so that's a lot to sort of scale up and get all the things. Why not consolidate your gains in like one country?
Well, partly we're too opportunistic and we do things we shouldn't do. But outside of that, there's incredible demand for our offering internationally. When you look domestically, hey, you bought a beach house 2 hours away, you want somebody who can take care of that house for you. But imagine you just bought a house in Mexico. Who are you going to leave those keys with when you get back on the flight to New York? Like, that is a scary proposition, and there's a ton of pent-up demand on the homeowner side there. So that's something we're very excited about.
Okay. So how good of a defensive moat do you have around your business? I mean, if one of the major lodging companies or there's many other players that are there who may have an interest in getting into this sector, if they see, oh, what companies like Vacasa are doing is Uberizing a section that's very effective or profitable or whatever, can't they just copy your model and just eat your lunch? Or?
That'd be fun to watch them try. I think Choice Hotels, I think they're in the room, I think they tried that a little bit. You could ask them how that's going. It's a tough business. I mean, we plunge toilets, we prevent parties, and there's so many lessons we've learned along the way. We make a lot of mistakes, but our motto's kind of like we only make mistakes once. Yeah, it's a tough business to learn. We have field operations, we have staff in a lot of places. We've built up a pretty big org. We've built great technology that's way better than any tech out there. So if you have any companies out here who are that great at building new technology and that great at running field ops, well, then we have a run for our money. But outside of that, I feel pretty good.
Okay. Well, maybe give an example of this. So now, for example, in Uber, it disrupted the taxi industry in a variety of ways that you can critique, but one thing that it did was like the taxi dispatchers, sort of a classic model, replaced it with an algorithm. If a driver gets positive review ratings, you tend to get more revenue. So what is it in things like housekeeping operations, yield management that you've done that sort of has brought tech to it?
Yeah, it's really quite similar. So like on the topic of housekeeping, it works more like Uber dispatch than a taxi dispatch. Instead of a housekeeping manager coming in every morning, looking at the schedule, remembering who was hassling them over hours the last day or who is their best friend, giving them the hours. Instead, our algorithms look at, well, how efficient is this housekeeper? How important is this clean? What are the labor laws? How many hours have they worked this week? And all that stuff's automatic. And so it just saves us incredible amounts of time while making us really efficient at managing those 1,600 employees.
So 1,600 employees on the spectrum between people who are just contracted by the area that you grab locally and people in sort of a hotel, employee model. Where do they fall? Like the field people?
Yeah, so we have 300 employees at our Portland office, 100 at our Boise office, and then everybody else is in the field. So we have local managers that take care of a portfolio of homes. They take care of the homeowner, the guest, and the home. And then we have maintenance techs and housekeepers supporting them.
Okay. And as you scale up dramatically in hiring all these people, how do you manage to keep quality control, and what are your lessons there?
A lot of it's through technology. We need to know what's happening. We need to know, like, it's the closed loop system. So the same system that's assigning the cleans knows the feedback from the cleans, and so and same with the inspection. So it's that closed loop.
Okay. For those who are interested in like building up a startup, going out to venture capital, what are some of the lessons learned that you've now gone through this process? Is there something, because we do have several startups that are here.
Well, I'd say raising outside money lets you be wrong longer.
And so you get to fail and then pick up and move to the next thing, iterate quickly, you mean?
Yeah. I think you can be very set in your ways. And if you're not running out of money and if people aren't adopting it, you can just keep on going the direction you're going, and it doesn't matter for a year or 2 years. Mm-hmm. If you're bootstrapped, you're going to know really quick if people aren't willing to pay for what you're offering.
And in other forums, you've talked about how you'd like to be sort of the Amazon of the vacation rental industry. So what does it mean when you say that?
Yeah, so to me, I looked at the analogy between eBay and Amazon. Like early on, everybody was all about e-commerce. It's a peer-to-peer thing. Everybody wants to buy an adapter for their laptop from somebody else, from a peer. Bullshit. Nobody wants to buy a laptop adapter from a peer. They want it to show up tomorrow from Amazon with a simple checkout process. And the same's true in travel. Like Airbnb and Uber can grow really quickly because it's peer-to-peer, but at the end of the day, it's not that you really wanted that local host to let you in and talk about their house and tell you about their cat, who will be staying with you, by the way. Like, that's not what most people want. But I like Airbnb. They're a partner.
So the Economist Intelligence Unit predicts, like in 2019, we may have a cyclical U.S. recession. It's the U.S. economy. It tends to be 7 to 11 years. We tend to have one. So if you're coming back to Forum in 3 to 5 years, and you're looking at how this market is going to shake out, what is your prediction of what's going to happen?
So were you saying a recession?
A recession in like 2019?
That would make us incredibly happy. We started in a recession because in a hot market right now, one of our biggest headwinds is people can sell their houses. Like they bought a house, now it's worth 50% more. They're not using it much, they sell it. They walk away with a few $100,000. But in a down market, they can't sell it. They're stuck with it. They're not using it. They can't afford it. And so that's a great time for us to increase our supply. So we're actually pretty excited about that. We're also in a very wide range of, I own a lot of real estate, I'm hedged. Yeah. So, and we cover a lot of markets and a lot of different inventory levels. So a lot of our homes are kind of recessionary. Like our Hawaii business will get hit hard by a recession. Our Rockaway Beach, Oregon business will thrive.
Okay. So when you look at these markets, so it's a constant debate, you know, as reporters, I'm lazy, I go back to certain tropes, and in markets like New York City, we think about whether there's rate compression. It's a constant analysis between hotels versus Airbnb and the apartments. What are the dynamics? Is it more a recession affected in the markets, like the classic Park City, Utah destination market, or is that there's less volatility?
So we price very, very aggressively in peak season and in under peak. So I think if you look at our pricing, like it's kind of embarrassing on our website because we show price ranges for each of our units, and they're generally something totally stupid like $99 to $1,369 is the price range of this 2-bedroom condo. We tested taking that off for some reason. People still like that totally useless range. Most of our industry, it's like flat lines. And then some of them get advanced and they're like, summer. And then there's some that are like summer, weekends, 4th of July. Like that's state of the art in our industry. It's incredibly immature on the yield management side, and we make a ton of money off not being immature there.
So you're at this stage, you've gotten Series A. What is the projection of where you'd like to go? Would you like to IPO? Would you like to be acquired? You've always wanted to have a private company and run it for years and years?
Well, that boat sailed, so got to pay them back. So from our perspective, it's all about kind of fulfilling our destiny in the space, which we see as 30 to 40% market share across all the vacation rentals everywhere. So, you know, our take rate on a 30 or 40 billion out of 100 billion, it's not a bad business we can build here. So definitely enough scale for an independent company. That said, if somebody can help us get there a lot quicker through homeowner relationships, through SEO, through that sort of thing, that's the type of conversation we'd be open to.
So you mentioned 6,000 properties earlier?
Yeah.
Is that what you had? And I think Booking.com is quoting, you know, multiples of that and possibly up to 700,000, 1 million rentals. So like you're at a slice of the market?
So
is your idea just to get...
first, a unit is not a unit. So our units are exclusive and they're generally available full year, and we have a 50% take rate. So you do that math and our units are worth more than an order of magnitude more than most other people's units. So it still just puts us at 60,000. So we have room to grow even with our order of magnitude kicker there, but we've got a good business.
Okay, and you're based in Portland, Oregon, so you've done a lot in the local community to try to reach out to entrepreneurs over the years and give them advice. When startups come to you and they give you your pitch, is there anything where you can evaluate, like these are certain tells about whether this set of founders has got what it needs to go, they've got a good...
Well, I think so it's that perseverance and curiosity, and I think most startup founders have it. I think beyond that, it's kind of tying it back to the real world. Like there was a comment earlier this morning about like tech for tech's sake. Are you doing something for its own sake, or are you doing it because you're actually meeting a real need? So I think if you have the perseverance, the curiosity, and you're actually doing something that answers a real problem, I think you'll probably find success.
And is there a CEO or business that's outside of travel that you find sort of inspiring as you sort of like try to step up your game
in travel?
CEO? It could be inside or outside travel, yeah.
I'd go with Dara.
Dara, okay. Why?
I think he runs a really good business. I don't think it's...
At Expedia as he has over the past...
Well, I think now he's got a pretty cool business ahead of it. But I think operationally, like just what they've done over the years, and we've had our first front row seat at the changes at HomeAway, and they've been incredibly well executed. And that was not an easy thing to turn into what it is today. And I've been incredibly impressed at how they handled that. So yeah, I have a lot of respect there.
So Dara and then versus the Priceline Group, in certain senses, Dara sort of has the one-person show model, and Priceline Group is sort of like has a lot of different circuses going on. What do you feel is better, just to devolve power to like as you grow up, you're getting a bigger company? Which model do you think?
Well, I think there's a lot of smart people there. I think he fills the seat well for the show like this. But I also think like Eric Hart, who's now running the carrentals.com, incredibly smart. He came and visited with us for a day, and like the way he encouraged me to think about the business was incredible. Just he thinks at an incredibly high level. Like I think like Mark again, there's so many great people there. We just I shouldn't say bought. We just got a board member who was a former. We actually don't pay him much. He could have got more. Don't tell him. Former chief scientist and CTO at Hotwire. Incredibly sharp people. There's so many smart people in that org. And they're only like 2 hours away, so perhaps some bias there.
So my last question would be, you're based in Portland, Oregon. Technical talent is so important to have. That's not exactly Silicon Valley.
Actually, it's a great place. So people from this Bay Area are coming to Portland to try getting at our engineers, because it's just silly in the Bay Area. Like, oh, I'm an engineer. I've been with one company before, 3 years experience, so I get 10% of the company and 150 base. It's just silly there. Whereas in Portland, I think we have both a strong level of talent, but it's also still a rational market, and we are the big fish there, so it's a nice place to be.
And so in the engineering software, are you hiring between now and the end of the year? Or?
Yeah, we're hiring a ton of people. So we've grown at 70, our engineering team has grown about 70% in the 3-month tenure of our new CTO, and we're gonna probably double it within the year. So we're really focused a lot on those things that eliminate the unscaled, what are the scalable investments? How can we better invest in technology to eliminate the things that don't scale? That's gonna be a huge focus of ours over the coming year.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to go to the audience questions now. So if you haven't had a chance on your mobile device, ask questions for Eric about Vacasa or the broader rental industry. So one of the questions is, how do you build brand standards when you can't control the assets?
Yeah, so that's a very tricky question for us. For a while, we didn't focus on brand. We now have a head of brand. She's right down there, so that's her problem, not my problem. But I think a lot of it's back to the Amazon analogy, where it's about delivering on what we're going to deliver and letting you know what you're going to get. Like, you can buy a $9 toaster on Amazon, and you can buy an $800 toaster on Amazon. It's your choice. You know the reviews. You see the reviews. You see the pictures. It shows up 2 days later. So that's kind of how we see our place, to deliver well on our promise while letting you know truly what you're getting.
So what do you tell people that think of you as just a property management company versus being like a lodging travel company? Like, how do you position yourself? So
we really are in the, does it have a kitchen? Like, that is our defining characteristic. If it doesn't have a kitchen, that's not our game. We're not going to thrive there. If it has a kitchen, we'll book it better than anyone else in the world.
So I mentioned earlier your commission fee is like one thing that differentiates you. What else sort of differentiates you in the market? You're full service, but there are still a couple other players, and with only 6,000 properties, it's on a market of potentially hundreds of thousands. It still seems like there's a lot of greenfield that you're leaving exposed.
Yeah, so a ton of that's why we raise money, to hit that greenfield a little quicker. But a lot of it is first in our technology, which really first makes it scalable, but then also improves how much we make for our homeowners. Through the yield management, through the marketing, it's a strong advantage that the more scale we have, our technology enables us to be in all those markets, which gives us great scale. And then that scale, in turn, we reinvest it, getting better and better at booking properties. And that's just going to be hard for anyone to catch.
So we have a question about the traveler fee and whether it's sustainable for online booking platforms. And the context here is that in the past few years, the major marketplaces have been trying to figure out the shift of like how much of the commission cost should be on the property owner, how much of the fee should be based on the guest who's coming in. So what's your take on that?
I think it's been a really smart move to putting it to the traveler fee. I'd say there's less of a billboard effect in our industry just because it's harder to find what you're looking for. And I think when you look at the economics, so we have a pretty plentiful take rate on our own units, but when you look at a lot of the companies out there, they might have a 15 or 70% commission, and they do a lot of work for that. So if you try telling them they're going to pass on 15 to Booking.com, that just doesn't work. There's no reason for them to ever do that. And so I think shifting more of that burden to the consumer, I think is smart, just reflecting the nature of the management agreements in our industry.
Awesome, Eric. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciated the talk.
Thanks a lot. It was fun.